Hi, I'm Corey, and I have too many years. I turn 35 in a few weeks, and that's terrifying. When I became an adult, I always sprinted away from becoming the grown-ups I experienced as a kid. Not to say that I'm looking for perpetual adolescence or anything, but I always found something missing in those grown-ups. A lack of joy, of fun, of spark. Whatever it was that made them special and unique that they had abandoned or lost or traded away for security, stability, and sensibility. I always thought there could be a better way. A way to keep that joy and optimism, to allow myself the ability to both be a responsible adult and a person with a joyous, playful spark who keeps creating and keeps putting out as much of himself into the world as possible. Is this getting too earnest? Good. Because I want to talk about my role model, one I've had since I was a kid, one who grew up but stayed fun, stayed excited, stayed, dare I say, weird? Al Yankovic? Shocker, right? I love Weird Al. Who would have thunk? Weird Al has been a public goofball and general good dude for the better part of 4 decades now, and his ability to be a functioning, normal human being and also a conduit for absolute silliness is something I aspire to. Also, the Hawaiian shirts. It's not just an obsession with tiki culture. I loved a loud shirt before I loved a complicated rum drink, and it's all Al's fault. I found a shirt that Al wore in The Complete Al that looked incredible on me, but it was a size too small, and it haunts me to this day. This is the shirt. Who makes it? It's from the 60s or 70s. The tag had long since crumbled to dust. I read the comments against my better judgment. Please let me know. But there's more than just vague hero worship going on here. You see, Al and I are linked in history by one of his most underappreciated in its time creations, one that's also turning 35 this year and getting a fancy new Shout Factory 4K to celebrate that fact. So don't change that channel, don't touch that dial, kick off your sneakers and stick around for a while. This time on Too Many Tapes, we're talking UHF. In his 1-star review of the film, Roger Ebert wrote, "Those who laugh at UHF should inspire our admiration. In these dreary times, we must treasure the easily amused." Well, Roger, wherever you are now, times are dreary as hell, and this movie does more than amuse me. It inspires me. UHF rules, it rips, it honks, it slaps. It should probably get its engine checked out because of all the ripping, honking, and slapping. I know I'm prone to hyperbole, but it's a masterpiece of 80s comedy and one of the better examples of how to successfully execute a film that combines sketch-based parody with a unifying narrative. It's one of those true cult classics, the rare film where both critics and moviegoers totally rejected it on release, but somehow, miraculously, it found its audience. The film is 97 minutes of Weird Al Yankovic's best and worst ideas and impulses, all expertly adapted into one shaggy, affable cinematic package. Sure, some of the movie parodies are a bit stale. The direction and production design are thrifty to a fault, and the story is so threadbare you can see what kind of underwear it has on, but it is gleefully shouting out the joys of creation, imagination, and breaking through the stuffy bureaucracy of human expression with the overwhelming power of compelling nonsense. It feels akin to the Muppet movie in the way it champions the underdogs and outsiders of the world, hoping to hand the reins of Hollywood to the lovers and dreamers. But where Jim Henson is tender and sincere, Al is anarchic and jeering. His is a brain warped by television and popular culture. Al is molded and delighted by our society's ephemeral nature and its adherence to structure, and he uses these underlying weaknesses to create his signature parodies. And those straight parodies are fun and well executed, but at the end of the day, they're mostly an exercise in juxtaposition. Take a popular song and slam it humorously into a totally unrelated subject, in Al's case usually food, TV, or the annoyances of daily life. Add some accordion and the hyper-produced stylings of the greatest musical chameleons of our age, and you've got yourself a Weird Al song parody. Real Al heads know the truth, though. The parodies are the hook, the thing to get you in the door, the thing that sells records. The originals, though, that's where the real fun lives. Alongside his style parodies, the originals are the crown jewels of the Weird Al discography. I'm talking Hardware Store, Melanie, One More Minute, Everything You Know Is Wrong. They're certainly less approachable than the straight parodies, but they show off an impressive depth of Al's musical knowledge and allow him to get stranger, darker, and a bit more distinctive. Congratulations, Corey. You're trying to seriously discuss comedy while also coming across as an insufferable Weird Al hipster. Hope you're real proud of yourself. But in that way, 1989's UHF, directed by Al's longtime manager Jay Levy, feels less like one of Al's song parodies and more like one of his originals. It's the story of a clueless but affable dreamer named George Newman. After a series of firings from low-level jobs, George is given control of a failing UHF station by his uncle, a gambling addict who won the station in a card game. George and his best friend Bob try to keep the station afloat, but face hardship after hardship until an accidental hit, a kid show hosted by the spacey but charismatic janitor, makes them the talk of the town, placing them on the hit list of the corrupt and bureaucratic local network affiliate who wants nothing more than to shut them down and turn the station into a parking lot. This newfound success unlocks the potential of George's overactive imagination, leading to a series of goofy vignettes, film parodies, a strained romantic relationship, kidnappings, aliens, wheels of fish, and some of the best vibes a movie has ever had. Does that plot summary sound sketchy and vague? That's because the thing barely has a plot, and that's okay. UHF is a container film. Yankovic and Levy were influenced by films like Kentucky Fried Movie and Amazon Women on the Moon that used a vague conceit to smuggle in a bunch of shorter sketches and gags. But the key difference here is that Al serves as a genuinely relatable center of gravity, which allows for a cleaner, more traditional rags to something adjacent to riches narrative. As a performer, Al is obnoxious on purpose a lot of the time, but there's an inherent likability to him. He's a guy you want to see succeed, and the lower status we make him, the more relatable he gets. For a famous dude, he still seems like an everyman. Now that I say that, though, I realize it does great against the established Al persona. Another tangent I thought you'd never ask. This is the benefit of being in the Tiki Bar. I get to talk directly to you. Look at me. We're not cutting away. There is no B-roll. I can't hide behind the edit. I have to get this in one take. Over the years, Al has cultivated a comedic persona, the heightened character of Weird Al. We all know Al's actual reputation in Hollywood. He's beloved. He's a nice guy. He's genuine. He's thoughtful, quiet, and private. He's an institution. I already said most of this in the opening. The Weird Al comedic persona is also in and of itself a parody. His rock star character has the veneer of niceness, yes, but poked beyond the surface, and he's sarcastic, cruel, arrogant, and cynical. He's a jerk. He uses a somewhat kid-friendly sex, drugs, and rock and roll persona to distance the world from a guy who is happily married with kids, doesn't touch alcohol or drugs, and pretty much keeps to himself. Anytime we see him in any sort of televised or theatrical work where he's playing Weird Al Yankovic, like 1985's mockumentary The Complete Al, or 1988's Tapeheads, or that one Disney Channel special Al did that was partway between a mockumentary and a concert film called There's No Going Home, he's this same rock star character. That impenetrable armor of ironic mythology persists when the character of Weird Al is being portrayed by somebody else, too, most notably Daniel Radcliffe in Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
You're all just a bunch of normals. Okay, I'm the weird one. I am the weird one!
Okay, I lied. There was some B-roll. I'm not great at reading an entire script in one take to camera. If you saw the outtakes, you wouldn't even laugh. You'd just be like, wow, that guy really can't say words. But where Weird Al, the character, is full of pomposity, George Newman is softer, gentler, and more genuine. Most of the time, at least. Al's vocal fry outbursts of rage and despair should be put in the Smithsonian.
Just bash my head right in. Go ahead, really, please. Just bash it right in.
In the futile pursuit of a sadistic roadrunner who mocks him and laughs at him as he's repeatedly crushed and maimed.
Terry! Oh! I'm in hell! I'm in hell! Terry! Terry, pick up the phone! Pick up the phone! Pick up the phone! Oh, Terry!
You can tell George wants to do the right thing, and that softening actually lets Al, act. Al didn't think he was a good actor during this period, which is a shame. In The Complete Al, he barely gives himself any lines to the point of absurdity. He's more of an object in any scene that isn't a music video. But in the one narrative project he wrote and starred in where he doesn't play Weird Al, he's surprisingly compelling. He's just being a normal guy. But that same quality that compels us about Al the celebrity translates pretty well into Al the actor. And that normal guy feels more like the real Al Yankovic, the guy before the fame, the guy who had a strange gift that needed to be shared with the world, but he was just looking for a breakthrough. The joyous mission of UHF is one of guidance. Al wants to let us into his world. He wants us to see reality, or something resembling reality, as he sees it. Everything in UHF is a little bit elevated, a little bit off, a little bit goofy. Yeah, Corey, it's an 80s comedy, but it's also authentic. It has a voicey, authorial quality that feels perfectly, singularly Al. This is the distillation of a worldview. On a movie this cheap, you're not going to get too much studio interference, so the quality of the film lives and dies on the decisions Al and co-writer and director Jay Levy made here. And most of their choices are based in tried and true storytelling principles. Make our hero a dejected everyman, make the villains clearly corrupt, make the unexpected savior a pure vessel of joy, and make the story center around the town rallying around and lifting up the dejected everyman and elevating him to his proper stature. It's rote and cliche, but so are a lot of the musical genres that Al parodies. Why not take his musical wheelhouse and adapt it to film? This familiarity allows for that elevation I mentioned earlier. It gives Al the latitude to try bizarre, left field, or unexpected things that can work within the margins of a standard Hollywood film. And bizarre reinterpretations of everyday reality are Al's bread and butter. That's the essence of his comedy. You can't replicate his specificity. Many have tried, and for a while there, uploaded their efforts to Kazaa and LimeWire claiming to be him. I started this video saying I was turning 35, and I really could have just dropped that reference. Jesus Christ, I'm old. Sure, some of them don't land, and a few crash and burn almost painfully, but the density of jokes and sketches and sight gags and odd ideas here are undeniable. You've got so many only Weird Al could have thought of these classics. A game show where contestants are spinning a giant wheel covered in fish in order to win said fish. A mentally unstable animal show host who tosses poodles out of the window to teach them to fly. Mikhail Gorbachev mud wrestling ladies in bikinis. A literal space alien teaching you how to make plutonium using household ingredients. A store that only sells spatulas. And his most horrifying creation, one that has haunted him and me for years. The Twinkie Weiner Sandwich, an unholy concoction of a hot dog, a Twinkie, and easy cheese. It looks vile, but it also looks irresistible. Folks, I've made it this far. 35 years was a good run. Through the magic of editing, I now bring you a totally unscripted segment that I'm going to film later so I don't spend the rest of this shoot ridiculously queasy. I'm gonna try the dang thing. Behold, the components. We have a Twinkie, the most important part. The wiener, the second most important part. Spray cheese. This is deconstructed, obviously. It wouldn't be a Twinkie Weiner sandwich without showing you the construction process. This is an instructional video now. This is educational content. I also want to, full disclosure here, it is 11:12 p.m. I am about to put this into my body and then probably in the next 40 minutes go to bed. So heartburn incoming. So, as shown in the film UHF, first we must split the Twinkie in two, like so. Put this here. Insert the wiener. This is a turkey dog because I care about my health. Robust. It's having a hard time. And then apply the easy cheese to the top. And a beautiful squiggle. Obviously, drawing was not my forte in school. Okay, so there are two possibilities here. Well, three maybe. Possibility one, I hate it. That is the most likely possibility. Also, just to preface this, again, another tangent. This is an unplanned tangent. People will say I will not have done it properly because in the film UHF, Weird Al does in fact dunk the Twinkie Weiner sandwich into a coffee mug full of milk. And I'm not going to do that to myself. Also, I looked at a bunch of Reddit posts of people eating Twinkie Weiner sandwiches and they all concur milk was a bad choice. So, again, option one, I hate it. It's revolting. That's probably the most likely scenario. Option two, I feel nothing. That's a lot of me these days. Maybe too revealing. Option three, and this is the scariest option to me. What if I love it? What if I love it? What if I love it? There's only one way to find out. So, for real, this is my first Twinkie Weiner sandwich. First ever, going in. Oh no. I can't know that. I can't know that about myself. Why is this amazing? Why is this so good? The saltiness of the Cheese Whiz, the perfect sponge cakiness of the Twinkie with that sweet cream filling to surround the savory meatiness of the hot dog. It's beautiful. Why do I doubt Weird Al? Why would I ever doubt Weird? I'm gonna finish this on camera. It's so good. I just ruined my life. Or yuck. Either way, that was certainly content you watched with your eyeballs. Unless you had me on in the background while you were doing dishes or something, and then I suffered in vain, so thanks for that, I guess. To wash the taste out of my mouth, let's talk about something amazing. While the Twinkie Weiner Sandwich may be the most iconic creation from UHF, its most important is a character. I give you the man, the mop, the legend, Stanley Spadowski.
Free toy inside! Free toy inside! Let's find it. Don't let your mom know that you do this.
Stanley may be Weird Al's best and most sincere narrative invention. He's a being of pure light and joy, the sort of person who has no business being on television but should absolutely, positively be the king of TV. And he's played expertly by a guy who got in a lot of trouble for hurling racial slurs at a comedy show heckler. But this was nearly 2 decades before that, when Michael Richards was still shiny and new, before Seinfeld, before the fame, before the infamy. This was his big break, the first time his name made the poster, and it's his movie at the end of the day. All of the things that would go on to define Richards as a comedic performer are here. His idiosyncratic line delivery, his full-body physicality, his uncannily precise timing. This is a man who is ready to take his career to the next level. But where Kramer is hip, Stanley is simple and a bit gormless. Where Kramer is ironic, Stanley is sincere. All of those nascent Kramerisms are there, yes, but when they inhabit Stanley Spadowski, it makes him more mysterious, more unknowable, more powerful. It's a deeply fascinating comedy performance from a deeply frustrating comedy performer. He sparkles. But what the character of Stanley represents is the heart of what makes UHF so special. He's the lightning rod of sincerity that threads the needle of Al's true self and his comedic persona. The entire cast of characters around Channel 62 are misfits, outsiders, oddballs, and weirdos. In one way or another, they're reflections of Al's struggles getting into the entertainment industry. They shouldn't be running a TV station. They don't have the polish, the respectability, or the professionalism. But all of those are just classist ways to throw roadblocks between creatives and the means of creation. UHF is unintentionally radical in the way a lot of 80s Slobs versus Snobs movies were. The rarefied air of the traditional stifles the creative spirit and crushes the imagination. And the goons of Channel 8, the network affiliate, are cartoonishly potent examples of that idea. It's nice to watch the little guys win. Underdog stories are popular for a reason, but they go one step further here, by reminding us that there are always more little guys than there are bigwigs. The town itself saves Channel 62 at the end of the day through a successful telethon spurred on by some Elia Kazan-esque face-in-the-crowd secret filming shenanigans.
This community means about as much to me as a festering bowl of dog snot.
Speaking of which, Weird Al is the best at insults, maybe the best since Shakespeare. Yes, I know, prone to hyperbole, feel free to ignore me if you must, but this time, I mean it. He's the best. Tangents, many of them. Is it my brand? At this point, it may be my brand. I outlined this thing and it's still wound up this way. What was I saying? Oh, right, the town. They're all of us. They're the folks who rallied around this silly, scrappy little movie, only we didn't show up in time. This thing got annihilated at the box office. Blame a great summer movie season, or bad reviews, or more reasonably, blame Orion for trusting the rave test audience scores to open this thing in the middle of summer against Lethal Weapon 2. And Batman. And When Harry Met Sally, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Dead Poets Society, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Ghostbusters 2, and Weekend at Bernie's. Remember when there were actually 10 movies at the theater worth watching at the same time? It opened 11th. You don't come back from that, especially when the reviews were as brutal as they were, because this movie maybe wasn't meant to be a big theater hit. It's a film about TV. When it became a cable staple, it just felt right. Maybe some of the thriftier corner cutting got smoothed away in standard definition 4:3, but it has, at long last, found its audience. It's beloved. People chant along to clips of it at Al's concerts like it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show, make pilgrimages to filming locations in Tulsa. Side note, Al played the UHF theme when I saw him in Tulsa, and it brought the house down. And eagerly snap up every new physical media release it gets. Like I said earlier, it's finally getting that spiffy, shiny 4K remaster. That's right! A movie that looks this cheap is getting an ultra high def release in crystal clear cinema quality video with high dynamic range. Put it on as a reference disc when people get tired of hearing Junkie XL's Mad Max Fury Road score. Treat them to Let Me Be Your Hog instead. But while it's deeply satisfying that folks eventually came around to UHF, it's a shame it took as long as it did, because I think it might have scarred Al permanently. In the extremely frank commentary track on the Blu-ray, he said that he would frequently try to rewrite and re-edit UHF in his head to figure out if there was a way it could have been more commercial. He took the film's failure to heart, and I don't think he should have, because he learned the wrong lessons from it. Al didn't write another movie for more than 30 years. His follow-up was 2022's widely acclaimed Weird, the Al Yankovic story. It's a movie I kinda like. It feels like one of his song parodies. It's funny, idiosyncratic, and engaging. That being said, it feels safe. And honestly, it treads a lot of the same ground Walk Hard, The Legend of Dewey Cox already parodied. Weird as a movie is more internet content than film. And yes, I'm aware the only reason this thing exists at all is that Roku wanted high-profile content for their free streaming service that would get you to stick around and watch half a dozen ad-supported episodes of beyond belief fact or fiction.
We got you.
Also, this may come across as hypocritical or glib coming from a guy whose primary hobby has been making literal, actual internet content for a decade now. Oh, God, when I say it like that, I can feel my bones turn to dust. But it never comes together to feel like a movie, despite an incredible leading performance from Daniel Radcliffe. Maybe it's the difference between shooting on film and shooting digitally. Maybe the $5 million budget of UHF went further in 1989 Tulsa than the $8 million budget of Weird did in 2022 Los Angeles. Or maybe it's that Weird was directed by a Funny or Die guy based on a loose, jokey sketch that he and Al co-produced in 2013, and it's made with that same ruthless, cheap-looking efficiency that mimics a film but doesn't have any of the character or texture. It's a parody of the musical biopic, but the filmmaking itself also feels like a parody of filmmaking, only Eric Apple doesn't have the encyclopedic virtuosic knowledge and skill for the craft that Al has for music. But more damningly, it's hard to get emotionally invested in Weird as a narrative, because like his song parodies, it's only really about the comedic collision of juxtaposition. Its overarching thesis is, isn't it hilarious how musical biopics adjust someone's life story for the sake of plot contrivances? The answer is yes, obviously, and the movie is funny. But there's not a lot of sincerity to be found there, just tongue-in-cheek irony that works in the service of plot rather than character. And again, that joke is a bit of a retread. A retread of 1985's The Complete Al, that is. You thought I was gonna have a whole Walk Hard segment, didn't you?
Stupid! You're so stupid!
If you haven't seen The Complete Al, I'll give you a quick rundown. It's essentially the mostly untrue life story of Al, documenting his unlikely rise to fame. Sounds familiar, huh? It's told in a mockumentary style, made around the same time as Spinal Tap, and features a lot of Al's classic music videos. It's a hoot, and it has a verisimilitude to it that makes it feel authentic to the time period and the format. Check it out. And then watch Weird again and get back to me. That's the comment prompt this month, by the way. Feel free to argue with me about this one. I firmly believe that UHF's critical and commercial failure convinced Weird Al that nobody wanted to see his sincere, original ideas anymore, and every Al-centric narrative that followed was more about Al the character than Al the person. He retreated into the less threatening world of self-mythology with Weird the Al Yankovic story as the final cinematic explanation of a 40-year joke about a decent, kind guy who got way too famous and stayed way too normal for someone whose stage name is literally Weird. It was clear from UHF that there were delightful, totally wackadoo worlds inside of Al's head, and because his first foray into motion pictures was a failure, we'll never get to see them. Which is a shame, because after UHF, Al spent the 90s concocting original, character-based stories that he'd stick at the ends of his albums in songs that range from The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota to Albuquerque, Genius in France, Trapped in the Drive-Thru, and Jackson Park Express. All of these songs have that same meandering, freewheeling idea-minute quality UHF has, and I think it's precisely why they've become some of the most cherished songs in his catalog. If UHF had been a hit, as it seemed was inevitable given the through-the-roof test scores, Al would have taken his rightful place alongside the Zucker brothers and Mel Brooks in the cinematic parodic pantheon. He could have done anything, any genre. Imagine a Weird Al spy movie, or a crime thriller, or a romantic comedy, or an animated movie. Literally anything filtered through his specific taste and worldview. There was so much potential there. Instead, we just got more music and more Al, which is good enough, great even. The man's practically a saint. But when you get a taste of someone's true potential, and when that true potential is as magical as UHF, you can't help but be a little disappointed when they don't get the chance to live up to it again. Al could have been just a novelty musician, a flash in the pan, but he's resilient, intelligent, and chameleonic, always learning, growing, and pushing his craft forward, never losing sight of his passion, staying active and informed, but always true to himself, and that's how to be a grown-up, isn't it? And that's how you stick around. So maybe you don't have to get serious when you get old. If you play your cards right, you can actually stay weird. And by the way, if one day you happen to wake up and find yourself in an existential quandary full of loathing and self-doubt and racked with the pain and isolation of your pitiful, meaningless existence, at least you can take a small bit of comfort in knowing that somewhere out there in this crazy old mixed-up universe of ours, there's still a little movie called UHF. Thank you all for watching Too Many Tapes. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to get updates for when I upload videos. Also, if you like this video or any of the videos I make, could you do me a personal favor and recommend me to a friend? Algorithms are cool and all, but word of mouth beats them any day of the week. Am I too mean to Weird the Al Yankovic story? I feel like everybody loved that one and I might be way off base. Let me know in the comments why I'm wrong. If you want to help out a small YouTube channel, consider donating $1 or more a month to my Patreon. For just $2 a month, you get early access to my videos. Every dollar I get through my Patreon goes to fund tapes and films to cover, alongside new equipment to make the show look and sound as good as it possibly can, so thank you for your support. If you donate $50 or more a month, like Natto Kitsch, you get a movie recommendation. This month I'm recommending 2016's Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. It's a Lonely Island project, so the bedrock of humor there is strong, and it's mockumentary format in relatively small perspective. The period up to and after the release of a former boy band member turned solo artist's overambitious and poorly received new album, rather than a career retrospective, allows it to really smartly use its characters. It's a great time, even if it's a bit uneven in its execution, and well worth a watch. For $10 or more a month, you're a Twinkie Weiner Sandwich, because you're iconic, and you're either amazing or, well, it all really depends on how I reacted, doesn't it? I just ruined my life! And for $5 a month, you found the marble in the oatmeal and you get to drink from a fire hose! And also, you found early access to my videos down there too, which is nice, but don't think that gets you more fire hose time. Be reasonable. Thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you next time on Too Many Tapes. No one wants to see me chew. And if you do want to see me chew, seek help.